So today we have arrived at our final devotion looking at holiness. I hope that we've built up a bit of a picture of what it looks like. We started with the holiness of God. We thought about the holy encounters that we see in the Old Testament. We looked at the person of Jesus, holiness in human form, walking on the earth. And then we took a bit of a change in direction in the second half of the week. First, considering the barriers that there are to holiness. Then yesterday we thought about what it meant to be made new in God, and how this can transform us and set us free from all those things that hold us back. Today we think about how we can continue that journey of seeking after holiness. The things that we will think about fall under three headings. The first is seeing right. The second is having a right posture. And the third is having a right being. So first, a right seeing. Stanley Hauerwas, in his book Resident Aliens, was talking about the Beatitudes in Mark 5. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And he said that we often look at these as statements, just a series of facts. But when you read them in a different way, you see them in a very different light. Hauerwas said, think of them as how God sees the world. They're actually completely different from how we would see them. As statements, they're quite hard to understand. But they make a lot more sense if you thought, oh, this is how God sees the world. This is the lens that God has on the world. It's not limited like us. Now we have to pray to see the world as God sees it. And we need to adjust and to realize that we have been looking at the world wrongly. We will all look at the world wrongly because we come to it from different lenses and different limitations. This is a real case that we're seeing around the world with Black Lives Matter. It's a real campaign that is illuminating that we have been seeing the world wrongly. The God who created everyone equal, but those people who were born equal are born into an unjust society that has perpetuated those injustices through the generations. And it takes courage to try and see the world how God sees it and not how we want to see it. Now, secondly, we need to have a right posture before God. By this, I mean both a physical and spiritual posture. We need to remember to look up to God. In Psalm 121, it says, I lift my eyes to the hills. From there comes my help. And here the hill is a metaphor from the place where we'll find God, the direction of God. Also, in lockdown, have you been able to worship? Though it may have been difficult, maybe following along on the TV, but worship has been stripped down to its bare essentials, you and God. Worship realigns us, reminds us of the greatness of God, and gives to God a small gesture that says you are worthy to be praised because you have done everything for us. And so thirdly and finally, we need to have a right being. Have we been filling our lives with the things that are either toxic for us or that distract us from spending time with God? Holiness could be seen as just one more thing to add to the list. But imagine this. Imagine you have a finite amount that you can hold in your hands, and you pile everything in and you're really laid down by it. And then you can say, well, I'll take a bit of that holiness and I'll put it on the top of the pile. You can see it's quite hard to just add one more thing, and eventually it becomes impossible. But instead we need to empty our hands. We need to empty ourselves of the clutter so that we can fill our lives with the things that are important. Now, we are finite beings with a finite amount of time and energy. Will we fill it with the things of God, or will we try and do it as an afterthought? Maybe after this video you can do a bit of an audit on where you are at the moment on these 3 criteria. On, are you seeing the world as God sees it? Do you have a right posture towards God? And do you have a right being? I'll put the criteria down in the description below. Where are you doing well? And where have you forgotten to make space for God? Holiness is the journey that we make as we head towards the kingdom of God. Will you make time and space now as you head on that journey towards God?